All right, it's Monday. You know what that means. Phil Trubey is in the house to help us look ahead at a very important week for the Musk economy. There's a new thesis on how SpaceX could hit the market. We've got the House subcommittee hearing on autonomous vehicles and a lot more. Phil is a tech visionary and an active angel investor in AI companies. Welcome, Phil. Great to have you back.
Thank you, Royd, and I'm looking forward to having a boring discussion about digging holes in the ground, among many other topics.
Yes, pun appreciated. But we've got a rather exciting thesis, a contrarian thesis from Chamath Palihapitiya on the Unpack podcast. Let me just quickly play out his soundbite.
My contrarian belief, number one, is I don't think SpaceX will IPO. I think that it will reverse merge into Tesla, and I think Elon will use it as a moment to consolidate control and power of his two seminal assets into one cap table.
Oh my God, I love that. Wow.
Well, he's talked about that before. He's talked about having a holding company for years of all of the collection. You could put Neuralink in there too, right, Chamath? You could put in the Boring Company as well.
Sure. I'm just giving you my contrarian take. There will be no IPO of SpaceX. I think it'll just be, it specifically will be a reverse merger.
Specifically a reverse merger. Yeah. Well, I mean, he's an insider. I don't know whether he doesn't always, I mean, a lot of what he says is grandstanding. So
yeah, I mean, this was specifically a segment which says, you know, this is a 2006 instead of New Year's predictions. These are New Year's contrarian takes. So what's your outland? I mean, they're trying to make clicks and headlines and stuff like this, right? So what's your outlandish prediction that you think is, you know, going against everybody else's narrative? So Chamath comes up with this. I mean, Chamath is the king of hot takes, right? He comes up with hot takes about lots of different topics. A lot of which don't pan out. I mean, he's a bit of a intellectual who can come up. You can rationalize arguments for lots of different things. Come up with rational sounding arguments for different things, but at the end of the day, they don't pass muster. And in this particular one, it's not going to happen. The SpaceX is going to go IPO, and by the way, part of the reason they're going public is because they're becoming more and more of a defense contractor, right? They're working more and more with the military, and actually, Palmer Luckey, sorry,
that's the one I'm looking forward to, Anduril.
Yeah, Anduril. So Palmer Luckey just recently on one of his pods, he said that Anduril will go public in the next couple of years, and the reason is because no private company would ever be given a huge military contract like to look after the F-35 program or whatever. Yeah. So it's the same kind of thing, you know. SpaceX with their Starshield project and future projects is being entrusted more and more by the military, and is becoming an integral part of the U.S. military. And for political reasons and other reasons, they want it to be a public company.
Yeah, I mean, just look at Starlink. Look at how powerful a tool it's been in the hands of the Ukrainians.
Yep.
And look at the Starlink
and Iranians too. By the way,
I was just saying that it's brilliant. I mean, so it's also, so we know that the Iranians have been trying to jam Starlink, the Starlink beam, and I think they succeeded for the first day, but they found a way around that. I think the crack, Elon's put his topmost best engineers on the job, ensuring that the Iranians have connectivity on the ground. I mean, what a brilliant way to field test it.
Yeah. It's been a cat and mouse back and forth for sure on jamming and unjamming and getting ways around it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Companies as big as Tesla and SpaceX are always going to have ridiculous detractors on X and social media.
Yeah.
But the reality is that SpaceX has allowed Iranians to smuggle in Starlink terminals since 2022. and allowed Iranians to get unfiltered access to the internet since 2022 for the last 3 years. So it means something, and that's been obviously in concert with the U.S. government.
Well,
Obviously,
Trump has just said that he's going to speak to Elon about
Yeah.
giving internet through Starlink to the Iranians on the ground, the protesters. So I think Hegseth's meeting with him right now or today.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's obviously, so it's. Would you look at SpaceX as a prime? We look at the 5 primes in the defense sector. Is SpaceX the 6th prime for you?
or Anduril, the industry's evolved.
Would you
The
call
industry's
Anduril prime?
Not
Do
yet.
you think it's big enough? Yeah.
No, not yet. Neither is SpaceX yet. So the industry is evolving, right? I mean, they'll grow, and who knows what's going to happen with the primes? Yeah, maybe there'll be a merger in the future. I mean, it was interesting because SpaceX managed
merger. Explain that. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I meant merger of the primes.
Oh,
right,
really?
the primes. Yeah, the primes might do something, right?
What's your thinking behind that? That's
I
fascinating.
don't. I'm just speculating, just
Oh,
in
okay.
general, broad strokes. I don't have a specific idea in mind on that one. But if you looked at what SpaceX has done, right? So we had Boeing and Lockheed, which were independent rocket launch companies, and they were, kind of not doing well financially or as well as they could have, and the U.S. government basically forced them to merge under ULA so that they would continue to be viable businesses, because the U.S. obviously needed American launch.
Yeah.
And what has happened, is that SpaceX.
What a lot of good that's done, hasn't it?
Well, yeah, it didn't do that much good, right? I mean, anyway.
SpaceX to the rescue.
Yeah, SpaceX to the rescue. So SpaceX basically has been eating the entire launch market for everybody. Yeah. And the irony is that, I mean, these things go in waves,
well,
right?
I wouldn't say eating the launch industry of everybody else. I mean, they're the overwhelming, like, big daddy of launch across the world. I don't think there's any competition. Where would you see competition coming from?
But these things, I was about to say, these things come in waves. I mean, so SpaceX is obviously the dominant launch in the world right now. Mm-hmm. By the way, followed closely by China, right? The Chinese launch is not insignificant. So there's that. The USSR, Soviet Union, Russia used to have a lot of launch, and it was really SpaceX that ate their capabilities more than anything else. But what's happened in the last year or two with SpaceX's success has been an opportunity for other companies to attract investors. So Rocket Lab is a legit company, right? And I believe they went public via SPAC. It was a bit of a, is that correct? I believe it did. So it was a bit of a touchy, they went through the 2000, 2001 SPAC thing. So it was a bit of a not great gestation. Specs. Yeah, not a great gestation for a public company, but they have the company's been run well.
And the stock's been on a bit of a tear recently.
Sure. In fact, it's not just SpaceX. I just wrote a post about it. Yeah. There's been about, in 2025, $2.2 trillion of private money investment in space companies.
Yeah.
Are you going to pull it up?
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. So, I mean, you can go down the list. Stoke, which, I mean, all of these are very speculative companies, is the way I would put it. Stoke, although some of them are pretty cool. Impulse is a pretty cool company. I mean, they're not doing launch; they're doing spacecraft. Once you get actually into space, and then others, right? Others are doing.
True Anomaly. There's K2. There's Apex, Loft Orbital, Ursa Major, and Eurosat. Yeah, I mean, it's getting interesting. So, I mean, the new space economy is I don't know if I'd use the word mature yet.
No, it's not mature.
But it's definitely blooming. I wonder, look, at the end of the day, it just boils down to mass to orbit, right? Your capability to take mass to orbit at scale. And if you look at the launch companies, I seriously doubt. I mean, there will always be niche areas that will still be valuable for a Rocket Lab and for others. There was also which was the company that was doing the slingshot launch. So, but the overwhelming prime is going to be SpaceX, in my view.
For launch.
Launch.
But having said that, the U.S. military require, they want more than one capability. So they're going to be giving contracts to others because they want that second source or third source capability. So there will always be space for somebody else in the United States for that. But you're right. I mean, the thing that SpaceX has enabled is cheaper access to space, and cheaper access to space opens up new markets. As well. Yeah, more reliable, but certainly cheaper, which opens up new markets for doing new things in space. And the current talk that everybody's talking about is data centers in space, which I'm still skeptical about.
You are?
But okay. Whatever.
Well, I'm glad you are, because everybody seems to be kind of riding piggyback on the Elon hype. It's good to be skeptical.
Yeah.
It's good to have a contrarian view.
But we don't really know. Well, imagine Elon thinks he knows, but we haven't seen the market adjusted to what Starship will do as far as really cheap access to space. But various, buried in all those private companies, space companies, business plans, I'm sure are figures saying, oh, look, when the Starship actually gets going, it'll be 1/10 the cost or 1/50th the cost of current dollars to space. Therefore, our private space hotel is going to be viable or whatever.
Right.
Or space mining.
Oh,
or
absolutely.
Whatever.
I mean, there's so many business models that are suddenly going to become viable thanks to Starship.
Yeah.
Right. That didn't even kind of make sense with Falcon 9. But when you look at, want to go back to your post, the valuations that you're seeing here and the valuations that we're seeing, like Rocket Lab and all in the markets, for example, do you think it makes sense, or is it just a lot of hype still? I mean, they're all riding the wave.
I don't know. Whenever people ask me about valuations, does it make sense? It's like, it makes sense until it doesn't.
I guess so. But I mean, at the same time, is there enough justification behind all the money that's going into these?
I mean, you have to remember, private companies are they're speculative, right? They're all raising money well in advance of revenue to justify it. These are all startups as far as valuation goes. They're all growth company valuations, and it works if the growth continues. So if 2 years from now, 3 years from now, the growth follows, then these valuations are perfectly valid. If the growth doesn't follow, then it's going to be a bit of an issue. And by the way, I mean, the big, so we're seeing this in space right now, and I think the SpaceX IPO is just going to lift all boats. It's going to make these valuations appear fine. The thing that I'm interested in seeing how it's going to work out is the AI robot space, right? Because a lot of companies have raised money and are raising money in making humanoid or humanoid adjacent, but basically AI robots. And my fear is that the artificial intelligence part of the AI robots won't be ready for the next couple of years. It's not going to be there yet.
Do you mean for the household, or do you mean for factory floors?
Yeah. Well, for anything complicated. So for, yes, household, definitely complicated. For complex factory floor also might not be there. Simple factory work might be there.
Okay.
You could very well have a robot that. So here's my example. I think you can do today with almost any of the humanoids with a good AI stack that's really been worked on. You could have you could be given a task to a robot that says, hey, go to this area of the factory, i.e. walk to this area of the factory and move the movable rack of bumpers to this work cell, and then set it up at the work cell and feed the welding machines with the fixtures, so take off the bumpers from the rack. There'll be 50 bumpers on the rack. Take off the bumpers, put it in the work cell, and
Kind
just
of
do
like
that
what
repeatedly.
you've been doing with BMW.
Yeah, but Figure didn't do the first part. All Figure did is remove a single bumper from a rack that had a single bumper on it.
Right.
Into a work cell. So they did a very simple version of that. They didn't even do the take a bumper from a rack of 50 bumpers, which is what you would normally do, which is what a human would do. And they certainly didn't go and get the rack as well, also what a human would do. So, but anyway, I think that's very possible, soon or now. But anything more complicated than that, it's possible that it's going to take several years to get anything more complicated than that. And what's that going to mean? It could mean that some of the weaker capitalized companies could run into trouble. We'll see. I could be wrong.
No, it's interesting you say that, because I kind of call bullshit on Elon's timelines. I like to be realistic. And watching his chat with Peter Diamandis on the Moonshots podcast, Elon saying you probably will not need to go to medical school within 3 or 4 years because Optimus will be better than any surgeon.
Oh, I hated that podcast. I loathed that podcast for so many different reasons, but one of them is that Elon was just riffing ridiculous things out of there.
And I think it's lost its value. Well, look, I imagine any CEO will pump up the hype and, push his team to unreasonable timelines. That's the job of a CEO. But on the other side, the outward-looking job of a CEO is to be realistic with timelines for investors in the market. Yes. And I think he's overdone it.
Yes, he's always overdone it, honestly. I mean, Elon is infamous for giving bad timelines. And actually, Dylan Loomis just like an hour ago did a post where he complained about Elon's Robotaxi timelines, which was only like 6 months ago. I mean, about 6 months ago, Elon promised a whole bunch of Robotaxi timelines. It'll be active in 8 to 10 countries. It'll no safety monitors in Austin. I don't know. He had about six different things that Elon promised by the end of the year, none of which have happened. And it was so. And I remember when Elon said all that, it was like, Elon, that doesn't look plausible. But who am I to say that the guy's wrong yet again? I mean, it's tricky saying Elon's wrong because he's usually right eventually. But there we go. So it was very unfortunate when he did that 6 months ago. Because all it does is it just reinforces how wrong he's been on full self-driving for 6 years. I mean, 6 years ago he was saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to have FSD done by the end of the year."
In fairness, it's an incredibly difficult problem to solve. And remember, no, I see your raised eyebrows, but I mean, just look back at their entire struggle with heuristic code, and then the decision to move to neural nets and all of that. the decision not to adopt LiDAR and go just cameras only. So it's complex. It's the challenge.
Hey,
right?
Royden, I've got to tell you this story, and this is something. This was one of my first Elon
story time. Let's go.
This was one of my first times that Elon actually replied to me on X, and it was mind blowing when he did it. So I wrote this X post, I don't know, maybe about a year ago, and it was detailed the very first and only time I've met Elon directly, and it was interesting. It was in 2013. So summer of 2013, the Model S had just been released summer of 2012, but it had really been starting selling in 2013. And Tesla was having a big presentation at their Hawthorne studio for battery swap. This was their battery swap presentation, where they were unveiling the fact that you could swap out your battery in like 3 minutes. The only reason they did it, by the way, was to grab California tax credits. That was the only reason they did it. But whatever, putting that aside, they were unveiling it and they were showing it. And this is in the day before Elon was famous, right? So I was there, and Elon was actually walking the crowd. And so it was great. I actually got a picture. A friend of mine was there, and I did the selfie between him and Elon. I was stupid enough not to get one between me and Elon. Why wouldn't I do that? Anyway, whatever. And I had heard on the forums that Tesla was considering doing autopilot. This was like a rumor. They hadn't done anything about it yet. So, knowing about AI and stuff like that, I was ready for my question. I went up to Elon and said, Elon, so what kind of artificial intelligence are you going to need, right? And in my mind, I was thinking symbolic AI, neural networks, because this is 2013. This is when neural networks were just starting to become real in the minds of researchers, let alone
I think ImageNet was out then.
2012. So a year before.
Yes.
Yeah, or AlexNet. It was AlexNet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Alex.
So this is like cutting edge stuff that only researchers would know. Anyway, so I asked him, what kind of AI are you going to use? And I didn't know much about Elon at the time. And subsequently, I found out that Elon, when he talks with engineers, he is super aggressive, and he will really get in their face when you challenge him, right? That's what kind of guy he is. He wants to make sure the engineer knows what the F they're talking about.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I asked him what kind of AI you can need. He looks at me directly. He says, "We aren't going to need AI." That's what it felt like to me. Like the full force of Elon's personality into my brain. We are not going to need AI. And I stood there dumbfounded. And it's like, okay, that was not an answer I was expecting to get. And I literally didn't know what to say. And Elon kind of looked disappointed, and then he moved on. And that was it. That was the.
Do you think he was looking for pushback from you?
Yeah, he was looking for me to act like a proper engineer and to actually engage in a conversation. And I
Why
froze.
didn't you?
I froze. Why didn't I? Because I gotta say, I was not expecting such a force. His personality is very forceful. I was not expecting such a forceful personality saying what he did. So anyway.
So that was the first time you interacted with him?
That was the first time. And then I wrote the post. So I wrote a post about this a year ago. And Elon said, yes, that's what happened. And it was like, oh, cool.
Okay, he remembered.
So he remembered. He actually remembered that, which was kind of cool. Anyway, the point being, my overall point about all this is that Elon, for all his gifts and intelligence and everything else, he's not a god. He makes mistakes.
Yeah, for sure. And I think he accepts them. He admits it as well.
He does admit it.
He says it about the timelines as well.
And specifically, and yet he continues. It's specifically on full self-driving and autopilot as it was back then. he didn't know what he was stepping into. He just knew what he wanted to do. He didn't know what it was going to take. He initially thought it was going to be an engineering, C coding project. Then he realized it needed neural nets, and then anyway, on and on it went. So, so when Elon does in particular, when Elon does anything with regarding to artificial intelligence, I kind of step back and go, I wonder if it's right, because it's not automatically right in my brain. And in particular, I got, the big thing that Elon is doing right now with Tesla and XAI both is building these giant data centers. And I go back and I go, I wonder if he's right. Because
But hey, I just to push back, isn't that what science is about? Discovery, experimenting and discovery. I mean, it's not smooth sailing in
you're
any
right.
scientific venture.
You're right. And Elon's algorithm, which is a very good algorithm, I will give him 100% points for this one, is if you innovate fast and iterate fast, fail fast, and realize what the problems are, and then change your mind, change your outlook fast, then that will win. And he's 100% correct about that. Doesn't mean that my intuition still isn't correct. I mean, it could be that building these giant data centers today with
It's not a zero-sum game.
with AI algorithms on the cusp of making all that obsolete, or new hardware making all that obsolete. It's possible that that's not the right thing to do.
Why do you think that?
Oh, because there could be new hardware. I mean, the current GPU hardware paradigm isn't the be all and end all. It's not the final. It's not what AI chips will look like in 50 years from now. There's no hope that they will be like that. And it's so there is a lot of development yet to be done in both algorithms, architecture, hardware, everything.
Yeah.
So spending billions and billions and billions of dollars on something that could change quickly, in theory, is a risk. That's all. Now, the flip side of it is not doing it is also a risk. So there you go.
I guess, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So how do you choose?
Well, you're Elon, and risk is your middle name. So yeah.
There you go. Yeah. No, but I did see this this post from Dylan, and I love Dylan, and I think he keeps it real, and I'm a fan of his podcast. There's a lot of value in it, and I think it's important that people in the Tesla investing community speak out. All views are acceptable. They must be acceptable. Okay, so speaking of AI robots, an AI robot on 4 wheels with Tesla FSD, there's this post from you where you weighed in on the kerfuffle at CES with Nvidia's Alpamayo, was it?
Yep.
James Dahmer was spicy, calling it. He said this is not competition for FSD. He's talking about Nvidia Alpamayo. Not competition for FSD any more than Lego releasing a space shuttle kit is competition to the Falcon 9. Nvidia has released multiple generations of ADAS development kits and tools for developing ADAS systems. These are not ADAS systems. They are tools to help get started developing an ADAS system.
Yeah. So
and then you then said, yes, this is similar to Nvidia's announced technologies for AI robots. Isaac Sim, was that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
These are tools and a starting point. Lots of AI/software development is needed. to build a production robot with them.
Yeah, over a year ago, Nvidia came out with a suite. It wasn't just Isaac Sim; it was a suite of tools for building humanoid robots. And Jensen went on stage, and I think he had about 8 robot companies that had developed hardware that were using his kit, if you will.
A lot of them were Chinese.
Yep, a lot of them were Chinese. There was some American there too, and but this is just a development kit. I mean, it's a starting point, and a lot of the heavy lifting AI still needs to be built on top of all this stuff. And it's the same thing with this Alpamayo FSD kit, if you will, that Nvidia just announced at CES. In that, if you're a car manufacturer, you start with that kit, and then maybe in 5 years, literally 5 years, you would end up with your version of FSD. So it's not a Tesla FSD competitor. It's just a kit, and Nvidia is trying to make sure that if there are any good Tesla FSD competitors, that they'll use Nvidia hardware to make it. So it makes sense from Nvidia's point of view, 100%, to be doing these things. And Elon said as much, and I think Jensen kind of agreed as well.
You did.
So yeah.
I wonder how much of that was Jensen backing down and saying, okay, maybe I hyped it up a bit too much.
I don't know.
Although it is his job to hype it up as CEO again.
I mean, he made an announcement, and the people in the industry knew what the announcement meant, but the popular press, like popular news stories, will hype it. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. So,
yeah. Okay, so this is an important week for Tesla FSD. We've got the House subcommittee hearing coming up. This is the 13th, right? That's tomorrow.
Yeah.
How big is this? How big is this? I think they're raising the number of autonomous cars from around 2,500 to about 90,000, and a few other.
Careful there. It's not autonomous cars. It's cars with no pedals and steering wheels.
Okay.
That's the 2,500 limit. So right now there's like a tester's exemption. So if you want to build a car with no steering wheel or pedals, as a manufacturer, you're allowed to make 2,500 of these. But if you want to have more than that, then you're prohibited right now. The current automotive standards say you've got to have a steering wheel and pedals. And of course, Tesla would very much like to change that. And it's not only Tesla, Zoox as well, right? They're a smaller robotaxi manufacturer, and their cars don't have steering wheels or pedals either. And it's interesting because we've seen China doesn't have this problem, or this restriction, I should say, right? You've seen, or I've seen lots of videos of random ass autonomous vehicles in China doing all sorts of bouncing around, doing all sorts of weird things. So they have a lot of experimentation going on in China doing that. And it would be nice
it's given the Chinese system is easier to just bring in legislation without accountability in that way.
I don't know. I don't know how legislation happens in China. I barely know how it happens in the U.S. So anyway, about this hearing tomorrow, I mean, the hearing is just a little bit of a kind of procedural thing that they have to do. I mean, the real work is all behind the scenes. It's lobbyists. Hopefully Tesla has competent lobbyists behind the scenes working with the administration to put together sensible rules because they need that for cybercab.
And Waymo. Let's not forget Google. It's not just Tesla. These are big players.
Yeah, but in particular, Tesla needs it because they're a manufacturer of cars that don't have any pedals or steering wheels. So, I mean, they're a high volume manufacturer of cars that don't have any. So that rule had better be changed appropriately, or else Tesla's going to be stuck.
Yeah. And I think Elon has mentioned in the past that RoboCab production not only needs to be timed perfectly with FSD maturing, but also the federal legislation being put in place.
Yeah. It's actually, I'm actually surprised. I gotta say, I'm actually surprised that the Tesla stock price is as high as it is right now, because you hit the nail on the head. AI, the FSD AI has to work just in time for this April 1st Cybercab start of production, and federal legislation has to change just in time. I actually don't know if it's legislation or if it's a rule. It might be a regulation rather, instead, by the Department of Transport. But whatever it is, it has to change just in time as well. I mean, these are pretty big unknowns for a stock price to be flying as high. So if it doesn't happen at the right time, oops goes the stock price, I think. If they do happen at the right time, then oops goes the stock price the other way as well.
Right. Yeah. And that's April, so you're very close to a possible SpaceX IPO, which it's not going to be the best of things for SpaceX to IPO if there are big boo-boos on the Tesla timeline. Yeah. But I guess, so is this whatever we're seeing with the robotaxi fleet in Austin, right? I think numbers have gone up in Austin and the Bay Area as well. We're seeing a lot more cybercabs with steering wheels being tested out. There's a whole debate online on X whether you're going to have cybercabs with steering wheels or not. Don't want to get into that, pointless. But how do you feel about, again, a missed deadline of December for robotaxis in Austin, offering ride-hailing without the supervisor?
I thought that timeline was aggressive to begin with. Okay, so I'm not surprised that it got missed. I always use my own Tesla as a test case for what's going on in FSD land. So my Tesla Model S is, I think, 14.2.2.2. That's the current version. And that's what it has. And it seems to be updated. Like, we're going on sometimes it's every 2 weeks we get enough updates. Sometimes it's every month we get an update. It's pretty frequent. Whatever it is, it's pretty frequent. And I've seen regressions. So the latest FSD update I got, I have seen a couple of regressions in my local driving. And the regressions are the kind that show potentially, I mean, I'm just guessing here, potentially show a tension between safety and driver convenience, if you will, or driver preferences. So before the 14.2.2.2, it would drive fast and confidently and wouldn't hesitate. It drove like a dream as far as I was concerned. But with the latest change, the regressions, it now stops at a turn that is an unusual turn, but it's instead of going through, it stops, because it's an actual left-hand turn on a uncontrolled intersection.
Is this going to be another Phil's left-hand turn?
Yeah, it could be. But anyway, the point is that there's no yield and no stop sign for this left-hand turn. So all traffic just goes. Doesn't matter what the other cars are doing. There's cars looking at you. There's cars looking at you in two different directions. It's a three-way intersection. But the latest version all of a sudden stops. And it's like, oh, so it's more. It's that means it's more cautious. and then I've seen it. It doesn't go as fast as the older version either. So anyway, point being is that I'm seeing regressions. So I'm seeing they're still figuring it out. They're still figuring out FSD for Robotaxi. But yeah, the timeline to April 1st is coming up, and it's gonna be close.
Yeah. Now, Elon, in that much quoted, was it a post or a comment that they need something close to 10 billion miles for it to be mature enough? And they've done just about a little over 7 billion miles so far. So they've got about 30% of the way to go. And the march of the nines will continue, but will mostly be conquered by then, by the 10 billion mile mark. So I guess there's still a bit of time.
That's a revision too, by the way, right? He originally said 6 billion.
Yeah.
So that's not great.
Yeah. Well, let's hope for the best. Let's hope for the best, because it's an important problem to be solved. But I think we're also perhaps sometimes run the risk of being a bit too critical of Tesla because we expect so much more of Tesla. I mean, we're not having these conversations about Waymo, and look at what Waymo's been up to: getting stuck on the rail tracks, getting stuck in its intersections, driving through golf courses, I mean, just freezing up in a citywide gridlock. So, are we being too critical here? I don't know. I'm just
Yes and no. Your point is well taken. The fact that Waymo's troubles are bigger than Tesla's as far as Robotaxi goes. Kinda. I mean, the reality is that they are running an unsupervised Robotaxi network, so you got to give them credit for that. Whereas
yeah,
Tesla technically is not. So, on the other hand, their software seems kind of crappy in comparison to the Tesla software. But on the other hand, you can't compare the two because Tesla doesn't actually have fully unsupervised. So yeah, it's hard to compare. The other thing though about Tesla is that, Elon is flying an airplane here, changing out the engine mid-flight is what he is doing. He has paused or pulled back on future factory development. He did that, starting 3 years ago. They were going to build a giant gigafactory in Mexico, and that just kind of got stopped for good reasons, by the way, because he was worried about Trump and tariffs, and it turned out he was 100% correct. If he had built that gigafactory in Mexico, it would have been a disaster.
yeah,
But he also did it because he realized, I don't need to do that. I just need to build cybercabs, which means that he's changing the Tesla business model mid-flight. He's changing it to completely a ride-sharing business as opposed to a car manufacturing business. And you can only do that transition for so long before it all starts to fall apart, right? If it takes too long to do a transition from one business plan to another, things, valuations certainly are going to get affected, if not profitability.
yeah.
So,
which is a great buying opportunity if you believe in the long-term success of the company.
Sure.
You're not very convinced.
No, I agree, but reveling
Not
in the stock
investment
price,
advice.
reveling in the stock price, dropping is not a great thing.
No, it's not reveling in it. It's just that the bulls tend to get carried away with the hype. And if you're sensible about it, you're realistic about it, you know that these are difficult problems to solve, and it's going to take time. So I think if you, it takes time. You got to be realistic about these things. Nobody has taken the approach of cameras only, right? Photons in, controls out, other than Tesla a few years back. And now Nvidia is doing the same, and others are doing the same. So obviously he's onto something.
All right. Are we going to have our boring discussion or what?
Yes. This is the segue to that. The boring discussion.
All right.
What's
So,
your big thesis?
all right. So, I'm getting tired. I'm getting tired of reading on X about people bashing Loop. Whenever a post comes up about the Boring Company and building their tunnels in Las Vegas and the like, you always get these people coming out of the woodwork going, "Oh, well, you could just build a subway. I mean, a subway. Subways have figured that out for 100 years. What the heck are you doing? Doing these individual car bullshit kind of stuff." And I don't know if these are just trolls or whether they really believe this or they just haven't done their homework. So here's my pitch on why the Boring Company's Loop is fundamentally different from subways and why it's better. So if you look at a subway, the first thing you realize if you've actually ever used them, a lot of people haven't actually used subways, but if you actually use them, you realize that you have to walk quite a distance to get to a subway entrance for the first point, because subway stations are very expensive. They're very big. The big, giant underground facility, which takes, it's very expensive to build. So they can't put them, every 3 blocks. They have to space them out by a lot. So it means, as a pedestrian, you have to walk quite a bit to get there. And then once you get to the subway tunnel entrance or to the street level entrance, now you're taking escalators, a lot of escalators down, walking more inside. It's a lot of time before you actually get to wait for a train. And then you're waiting for a train, 10 minutes, typically 5 to 10 minutes at rush hour, 20 minutes maybe at non-rush hour. And you get a train. All right, now you're finally on the train. And now if you want to go 10 stations, you're stopping at every station along the way. So it takes longer to get there than you would think it would. And woe is you if you actually have to change lines. Now you have to de-embark off your train, walk for another quite a while to get to a new platform, wait for another train, and then go from there again. So it's kind of sucks, actually. And then the final indignity in the whole bit is that you're crammed in with, well, these days with crazy people, but you're crammed in with other people, and potentially you've got safety issues there as well. And by the way, I mean, the safety issues aren't just with crazy people. I mean, the platforms, I mean, you've got 800-volt lines sitting there in the open. God forbid if you actually were ever to fall in there and touch the wrong thing at the wrong time.
Or be pushed under them.
Or be pushed, yeah, exactly. So it's not exactly as if it's safe either. All right, so what is Loop in comparison? So Loop, you have to realize it's a hybrid system. What does that mean? It means that it's not just a tunnel-based system. Often in Vegas, the stations aren't underground; they're above ground. Where they can, they will actually have the station be the hotel portico. Basically, the front entrance of a large hotel will be the station. So you're coming off a lobby, and there you can pick up your cyber cab, robotaxi, whatever you want to call it. You can pick it up right there, and it will drive you from there into the tunnel network. And if they don't build a station right there, they might build an above ground station just like 100 feet away. So it's a lot more convenient right from the get-go from a user's point of view. You get your own private car, you don't have to worry about other people, and it's an express system. So when you go to a destination, it's not going to stop at every station along the way. It will skip the 10 stations along the way, and it will do the equivalent of changing lines. It will drive, and change direction if it needs to get to where you want to go. So you don't have to go to every station along the way, and you don't have to disembark and re-embark to go on different lines. Again, much faster and more convenient for people. The less wait time because you got individual cars. You may end up, in fact, you probably will end up with more tunnel carrying capacity because if you think of a subway tunnel, most of the time that subway tunnel is empty, right? I mean, a train just passes every once in a while. Whereas in a loop system, you've got cars potentially constantly moving in those tunnels.
Yeah,
So
occupancy would be higher.
yeah, occupancy is potentially higher, or at least not as bad as people think it would be.
But tunnels are also a lot safer than infrastructure on the ground,
Yeah,
especially
yeah.
in earthquake-prone areas.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have no access, if you will, to the platforms and the actual tunnels themselves. I mean, the only way you get in there is via the car, and then also due to economics, because stations are cheaper to build, right? So in the loop system, stations are far cheaper to build. They're often above ground stations, so that means you can have them closer together, right? And you can have them closer to where you want to be. So all of this, and then you layer on top of this the actual business case. Loop decided to shrink the size of the tunnel dramatically. They're only 12-foot diameter tunnels. The inner diameter of the tunnel is a 12-foot diameter, whereas a subway, I don't even know what a subway typical is, but it's a lot more than 12 feet. And so because of that, the tunnel boring itself is cheaper. The boring tunnel machines are cheaper. It means that they can iterate much faster on tunnel boring machines, which again, it goes to Elon's algorithm. If you can iterate fast, you've got it made. So I think they're on version 5 now of their tunnel boring machine. And it's because they've been able to iterate faster because the machines are cheaper. The other thing that they've done is because they've been able to iterate so faster is that they are this close to one of their goals, which is called Z-pit, which is 0 people in tunnel, which means there's no actual person in the tunnel boring machine, digging out the tunnel as it's going through. It's all done remotely. So you have remote operators running that tunnel boring machine through fiber optic cables all the way. And they're just, monitoring and controlling things as they go through. But that's obviously going to be replaced by AI pretty darn soon. I mean, as soon as you can do it remotely, now you can train an AI to do it as well. So, I mean, they're reducing the number of, from a construction point of view, they're reducing the biggest cost driver of any construction project, which is personnel, employee costs. So the cost for these tunnels are just going to keep on going down and down and down. So all this results in Vegas, at any rate, Vegas, there's 0 public money being spent. I mean, even just that one fact alone is enough for everybody to rejoice about this infrastructure, this public transport infrastructure costing governments $0. How can that be? Well, it's because it's so important, right? That the boring company has managed to get the hotels, which are all going to get their own station. They managed to get the hotels to pay for their own station cost and their own little bit of the loop network. So the hotels, private industry, is all paying for this stuff. You don't have to get government involvement, which also
But
goes
that's also
in.
specific to Vegas, right?
Well,
it won't be as easy to replicate this in other places. At least the private industry sponsoring it.
We'll see, right? I mean, Vegas is it's a proof of concept, if you will, right?
Sure.
I mean, nobody. This is typical for Elon's companies. Nobody believes anything Elon says or does. They don't believe the boring company. They don't believe it's going to work. Even now, right? Even now,
why do you think that is?
Because it's so out of this world. It's so revolutionary and so against the first thing they will say, oh, if it's that good, why isn't it done everywhere? Well, it's not done everywhere because you have people like you who don't believe in it. That's why it's not done everywhere. It takes time to get people to change their mind on things. And so as the stations come online, and you get 10, 12, 15 stations running, and you get more and more positive press about it, then the politicians in other cities are going to start to wake up. I mean, I'm disgusted at what happened here in my current hometown of San Diego, in the University Town Center area. They built we've always had light rail here in San Diego, right, to go to the football stadium and downtown. And they did an expansion up into North County, and they built these giant flying overhead concrete platforms, roadways, overhead roadways. Think of what the Chicago overhead roadways, how ugly that is. Think of a modern version of that in San Diego. It was like, what are you doing? You're ruining our skyline with these huge overhead things, huge amount of concrete
And
and
plus the
steel.
cost of putting that infrastructure in place.
Billions and billions of dollars. It would have been cheaper to do loop. Absolutely would have been cheaper to do. I mean, I haven't run the numbers, but there's no way you can convince me that it would have been more expensive. And it would have been so much better. It would have been all underground, out of the way. Nobody would have realized it was even there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you, and I've wondered about this. So far, it seems that the loop is only for passenger vehicles. Why not? I mean, there's this crazy suggestion by Putin that Elon be asked or supported in building this freight corridor between Russia and America through Alaska. I mean, it's why not have the Boring Company build tunnels for freight, especially when you have eventually autonomous semis.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Loop is focused on urban infrastructure. That's all their projects. They haven't pitched it on any long haul, like between cities. Why? I don't know. They're smarter than me on this one. They have the spreadsheets. They know what's economically possible and what's not. I imagine it comes down to economics. That would be my guess.
Okay. Yeah, which would make even more sense for freight corridors, for Loop to build freight corridors. I mean, the cheapest form of transport of freight goods is by water.
Yep.
You could really bring the cost down effectively through the Loop and make it as competitive as possible and a lot safer and seamless and quicker.
Yeah, well, just repeal the Jones Act and get our waterways working, and you'd fix a lot of things.
A lot of things. That is true. That is true. There's this interesting post from Elon that I thought I'd share, where he said the Boring Company would gladly build tunnels for others, but no one else is even trying. And I think that's also representative of
yeah,
the apathy that we were talking about.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's we see this time and time again. This isn't something that's unique to Boring Company, where nobody else is just picking up on the idea. Bezos infamously said when they started AWS, their cloud-based service, that when they started that, he expected them to get a 2-year head start, right? Because he realized how good a business this was going to be. And he thought, okay, we're going to get a 2-year head start. We're going to get a competition. So, let's just press on. In the event, he got a 7-year head start, 7 years before the competition realized, oh my God, cloud computing is real. Maybe we should start competing. And it's like, well, how can that be? Well, it's just the way the world works. Same thing with SpaceX. The signs were all there. I mean, people, once Elon landed that one ship, that one booster, once Elon that one booster on land, I believe, was the first time he landed it, but then he was trying also on the ocean.
The fourth attempt, I think.
Yeah, of trying to land it. Yeah. You knew that the game was over. I mean, I knew the game was over. Everything changed.
Yeah.
And yet Arianespace kept on trying to do what they were trying to do.
But
ULA
it's
kept trying to do
difficult to
what
do
they're trying
that. It's difficult to do that. It's difficult also to change a very set way of thinking,
you know.
whether it's
Anyway,
Arianespace or NASA, anybody.
I think I think the fundamental answer is the number of actual entrepreneurs, CEO, entrepreneur, people who can raise money for ventures and can run a cutting edge thing like that. It's just there aren't that many people in the world that can do that. That's the bottom line, I think.
Yeah, but I think you also have to factor in. I mean, if you look back, this is what, the early 2000s. This was also the time that you had a company called Palantir that was trying to change defense acquisition, and they literally had to take the US government to court. So it's not just about entrepreneurs, it's not just about funding, it's also about support from the government. Wouldn't you agree?
Yep. Yeah. Well, especially in the case of Boring Company, they need government support every step of the way. So, actually, again, this just came out. I forget who said it. I think it was it was one of the Boring Company executives. So one of the Boring Company executives in a recent something said that if they had carte blanche on permitting in Las Vegas, that the entire 65-mile tunnel system would be built by today. So the reason why they haven't been able to build as fast as they like is just due to permitting delays. And this is in Vegas, where they've been pretty good about permitting, comparison to everywhere else. Like if they were trying to do this in Boston, it would be a disaster. But so Vegas has been relatively quick in permitting, but it still has delayed the project by a long time. So yes, government
Support,
safety, permitting,
Yeah.
support
Yeah.
means a lot.
Well, do you think the Trump administration is going to do something about it? Are you hopeful at all?
They're trying. It's a big ship of state that they need to turn around.
Again, I suppose federal regulation will be the way to go.
It can only go so far. I mean, you do have state autonomy in the United States.
True.
So there's a limit to what the feds can do, and that's why you have innovative states like Texas and Florida that are being a bit more open versus other.
Speaking
states.
of which, what do you make of this move from Silicon Valley? I think it was the Google founders who were moving to Delaware?
Well, they're pretty liberal, right? So I'm not surprised that they might do that. I mean, the other ones, so this is all with regard to the potential billionaire tax that might go on the November ballot. I think there's still signature gathering right now to actually make it onto the November ballot. But the problem is that the way that billionaire tax proposal is currently written, it's retroactive to January 1st of this year. So what this meant is a whole bunch of potentially exposed. There's only 200, or there were 200 billionaires in California, but nonetheless, they were all potentially exposed. So a bunch of them that we know of have actually already moved. So within a 2-week period, end of year, they all picked up their sticks and went to different states. Some of them went to Texas, some of them went to Florida, and the Google founders, which are more liberal than others, went to Delaware, which I don't know why you would do that, but whatever,
that's
their choice.
Weird, but well, whatever floats their boat.
Yeah.
All right. We'll leave it at that for this chat. Thank you so much, Phil. It's been such a pleasure. And
I have fun with these chats. Thanks so much for putting them together.
Yeah. I mean, we've had a lot of comments, a lot of people commenting in the section that I don't get it. I don't let you chat. I don't let you talk. I keep interrupting you. But I say, listen, these are fun chats. It got to be
Well,
spicy. I'm going to push back. These are not boring
yeah, no,
interviews.
and I have not felt the last two times at all that you've been
Yeah.
interrupting me. We've been having good discussions.
Yeah, and I thoroughly enjoy that. And I'm so grateful for your time. Really appreciative of your time. So thank you so much, Phil. Looking forward to the next. But I think there's going to be some very interesting things happening tomorrow. Maybe we'll get you on if you can spare the time and chat about that as well. And a lot more.
Sounds good, Rodden. Thank you.